So I went to my second adult night at the Museum of Science, and this time I brought two friends we'll call the walker and the driver. The walker lives in my neighborhood, and I literally walked to the train station with him. The driver is the one who, at the last minute, decided, forget public transit. I'm driving because he ran behind on his errands. But before I get into what exactly went down at adult night this time around, be sure to give this video a like. Comment what you think about all this along the way. Subscribe for cultural commentary and rants along the way. And last but certainly not least, feel free to join me at the Zillennial Nexus Point Discord. Link will be in the description below. So anyway, I left the house long before the train even left, so I could take the long way to meet the walker, so we could get to the train station together, and so I could help him buy his weekend pass, because we originally thought the driver was going to take public transit from his area, but he made that 11th hour decision. Either way, I got him to get the weekend pass so that he would have the option to take the train if the driver couldn't give us rides home. See, I already had my weekend pass from Saturday regardless, so it was all the same to me. Anyway, this was the walker's first time taking the train in a while, so I helped guide him through the experience, showed him where to go, what to do, all because I've been doing these weekend city outings for nearly 2 months straight, and like Ugandan Knuckles, I know the way. Although for me, as I'll get to later, this was a learning experience about what these things are like with friends, or having to contend with other people in my party rather than just doing things alone, which, to be clear, if my friends are watching this, I really appreciate that you came along with me to adult night at the Museum of Science because I think it was a great experience. It was a good time hanging out with my friends. I really mean that. But as I will get to later, it did open my eyes to how different it is when I have to actually worry about other people's schedules and wait for them to finish doing something that I've either already done numerous times at the museum or don't really care for. Anyway, getting back to the story, I helped the walker activate his train ticket on the MBTA app. And then when we got to South Station, which thankfully was on time, I showed him how to buy a subway ticket at the fare vending machines, then how to use them at the fare gates. I also pointed out spots where things I've talked about on this channel have happened, like the guy who called me Jeffy's bad word, well, the spot where it happened. And I don't think I mentioned this in any previous videos, but the previous Sunday, there was this explosive argument going on down there, and I reported it to someone who could go in and de-escalate it, but it seemed to end right as they were going in there anyway. It all turned out to be fine, but I was still shaky and nervous after the fact. Thankfully, I calmed down by the time I got to the aquarium, but getting back to adult night at the Museum of Science, we got on the red line, which mercifully was not overcrowded like the green line during the orange line shutdown the previous weekend. Even passing Park Street, it wasn't that bad. It kind of proved my theory that all the displaced riders, the Green Line refugees as I called them, were heading in the opposite direction. See, we were on the Alewife side, which passed by an Orange Line transfer at Downtown Crossing, and at Park Street, that was the Green Line transfer, which wasn't going towards North Station and beyond. Medford Tufts is the official end of it. But yeah, that part of it was down, which was really disappointing because Science Park is right on that green line, and we could have just gotten off right there, right across the street from the museum. Unfortunately, we had to ride to Charles MGH on the red line and walk from there. And it took me a second to get my bearings because it was dark and raining. First time I'd been out there after sunset, at least in the context of this, these types of trips. Because obviously, I was there after sunset on adult night in July. I didn't have to walk around in the dark. That's what I'm trying to say. Also, I want to say Apple Maps nailed the ETA. We walked straight to the museum and arrived exactly when it said we would. We were still early to the event and we had to wait in the lobby for them to start scanning our tickets. Not too long after we arrived, the driver rolled up right after us, which timed it perfectly. We got inside at about the same time that my friend and I did the previous adult night. And since the cafe wasn't ready yet, we decided to explore the exhibit halls and see our 4D show before dinner rather than eat before going into the 4D theater. While we were waiting for our 4D theater showtime, I started to notice something about myself. I was antsy, like moving on to the next exhibit kind of antsy. Probably because I've gotten so used to doing things solo, I forgot what it's like to slow down and move at someone else's pace. Honestly, like I said, it was fun seeing my friends' reactions, especially to the AI exhibit and the 4D theater experience. Watching people experience something you've already seen gives a new layer of appreciation, or it's fun to share the experience every now and then. Obviously, I think the experience is still fun, but it is better with friends. Friends make experiences like that better, the same way AMC makes movies better. So yeah, dinner was fine because the options were way more limited. Just the meat and potatoes options was what was open. They didn't have the pizzeria or the deli open, but that's why I had rice and vegetables for lunch earlier that day so that I would have the option to have something like the burger and onion rings I had. I gave my friends my member discount, and then after we finished eating, we randomly ran into a guy we went to middle school with and his girlfriend, which made the night feel more social and connected than my first visit. It was good to see him again. Yeah, we all checked out the live animal care area together, which surprised me because I thought it would have been closed for the sake of the animals' sleep cycles. But it was open, and okay, we didn't really get a good look at anything because it was a bit crowded. After the live animal exhibit, I played guide again. I basically told them what was where and gave them the choice of what to do because I've done it all already, so I know my way around. I know what to do, and anything we didn't end up doing, I could literally just come back during normal hours. So I brought them to the dinosaurs because that's kind of a classic for the museum. Well, after playing the engineering programming game, where I let them figure it out themselves because I wanted to give them the challenge of figuring out how to help the mouse collect the gems, it came time for the planetarium show. Yeah, we didn't get to do much in the green and blue wings because of the timing of dinner and of our add-on experiences. But we got to go to the premiere of Remixed, which is going to be replacing One Sky in the normal planetarium rotations starting on Saturday. Which makes me really glad I went to see all the planetarium shows I could, minus the Big Bird one, because that one is obviously tailored for children. Anyway, getting back to Remixed, it honestly reminded me of my NASA approach video and how they tie science to literally everything, like how I compared the way I do my planning for these kinds of trips the same way NASA does planning for their missions, where, like I said in that video, Artemis 1 was a equipment only mission to test the equipment, and the next Artemis mission, assuming the government shutdown doesn't delay it, is to test sending people into space before Artemis 3 sends people to the moon. Yeah, the host said something about how we all collect data from our lives, And it clicked with me because that's exactly what I'd been doing all night up to that point. When we left, I used my member code, hoping to score free parking for the driver, but we missed the 3 hour mark by minutes, and he still had to pay the $15 base rate for the parking garage. But not a total loss when you consider it would have cost $24 without my membership. Anyway, what I learned from all this is doing things alone for so long made me forget how to consider other people and their needs and wants on these kinds of outings. When I go solo, everything moves at my pace. I want to sit down at a bench and stare at the penguins at the aquarium for as long as I can do that. With friends, it's slower, but it is also richer because, again, I like seeing how they played the programming game. I liked watching them analyze Cliff to try and figure out which of the bones were inserts, meaning not real ones. Overall, friends really do make these things better. I realized that doing all of these alone for so long made it hard for me to take other people into account. At least people who are in my party. So yeah, that was my second adult night at the museum, which was completely different because I forgot to mention this. It was way less lively than last time. I don't know if it was the weather because it was raining when the walker and I walked from Charles MGH to the museum, or if it was because today, as I record this on Monday the 10th, it's a work day for your typical 9 to 5, and the driver did have work the next day, which is now today, so that might explain why it was a little less lively. It could also be the fact that it was colder. For context, last adult night was not on a long weekend. It was just a typical Sunday, but it was in the middle of July, so there's that to consider. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here for the video. You let me know in the comments what you think about all this, whether I should more actively invite people to come to these things with me, or at least the aquarium or the museum during normal hours, so I can do better with learning to take other people into consideration. Make sure to also give this video a like, subscribe for cultural commentary and rants from a man caught between generations. And last but certainly not least, feel free to join me at the Zillennial Nexus Point Discord. Link will be in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.